You're tuned in to the Cre8 Podcast, where we explore the stories, advice, and insights from well-known and influential creatives in the industry. I'm your host, Cindy Morioki, and this is where creatives connect. Hi, Kui.
Hi.
How are you?
I am doing very well. And yourself?
I'm good.
I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. We're excited to have you. I think you're the first creative of your kind to be here.
Ooh.
So you'll have to set the bar really high.
Hey, that's something I'm good at. I know how to do that.
Okay, could you please tell our audience who you are and the type of creative you are?
Absolutely. Hello, audience. My name is Kui Mwai. I'm a journalist, podcaster, producer, and screenwriter. I have too many jobs. I think probably a better way to encapsulate that is a multi-hyphenate creative. It seems a little bit pretentious, but yeah, I have my hat on in many places.
So you're basically a creative because,
Yeah.
I mean, you wear very many hats, actually, like as you've said.
Too many, girl.
Well, I love that for you.
Thank you.
I love that for the podcast because you're gonna drop some gems, hopefully.
Let's talk. Hopefully.
Hopefully. So I went through your LinkedIn and I saw that you did not study journalism or anything that you've mentioned.
Not at all. Not at all. I actually went to school to be a lawyer, believe it or not. I was 18. I took myself very seriously. I'm sure you guys remember just being a teenager and thinking that you know everything and that you just want to be serious. I also, Scandal was very hot at the time, that show with Kerry Washington.
Yes.
And so I would watch her strutting around in her white coat in DC and I was like, I want to
be that.
Yeah, and so that's what I did. And then I quickly learned that it was not for me.
Oh, but did you finish your degree?
I did finish my degree. I finished my bachelor's, and then I had the option to go on to law school and
Yes.
go down that path if I wanted to. But I saw a lot of friends go through that, and a notable ex of mine go through that process, and I was like, oh no.
It's not it for you.
It is not it for me. I think legal careers are noble careers, sometimes controversial. But if you don't eat, breathe, sleep that life, then you're not going to be successful. And I just didn't have that passion for legal pursuits in that way.
So then how did you end up in this other side, journalism and screenwriting and everything else that you do?
I very much stumbled into it. So after college, after my undergrad degree, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't really getting any jobs that I was excited about and wasn't getting any opportunities, really, to be honest, at all. And so I got a really random opportunity to go work as an au pair in Paris. And so I did that for a couple of months. Very interesting experience, maybe a story for another day. Let me tell you something. If any of you get the chance to go to a country where you don't speak the language, you don't really know anybody, do it. Go for it. It's scary and terrifying and definitely intimidating, but that's where I think I really found myself, not just personally, but also professionally. I always loved writing growing up. I was always passionate about performance and writing and all these creative arts. I think it's so funny. It took me 22 years to figure out that maybe I could do something or maybe I wanted to pursue that in a more professional way. But also, bless our parents, our baby boomer parents. They didn't know how to point us really in those directions.
Exactly.
And so, so I'm in Paris, I'm depressed, I'm broke, and I'm just thinking about what I want to do with my life. And I was like, well, I know I feel really passionate about writing. I would love to do something with writing, but I didn't even have the language or the jargon to describe what kind of writer I wanted to be and how I wanted to get there. So I did what I knew. I eventually went back to the US and I started working in corporate spaces, doing jobs that were very writing heavy, right? Doing marketing work, communications work, spaces that are not accessible, but if you have some sort of professional and academic experience, you can certainly enter those places. So I did that for a while starting to figure out, okay, do I want to write for magazines? Do I want to write for newspapers? And I tried everything, and I'm very thankful that I did, because that's what eventually showed me the path that I wanted to be on.
Okay. And then you started writing for, correct me if I'm wrong, is it Vogue?
Oh my gosh. Well, I wish I started there.
Okay.
I was writing for really small, medium-sized publications that were mostly, I was doing it for free. And then I met my beloved mentor, Jenny Savin. She's wonderful. She is the features director at Cosmo UK. And she was very kind. I really just reached out to her because I liked her work a lot. She wrote a lot about women's issues in the UK. And I liked her work because it felt very personal to her. And I don't think that I had ever really seen writing like that. Like, I had no idea that there was a market for writing about your own experiences and that people will connect to that. And so I was like, wow, there's a way to do this. Like, this is it. To me, it felt like the first time I was seeing what I wanted to do for a brand that I had always loved. I grew up reading Cosmos and taking the quizzes and all of that. And so I reached out to her, and she was really a defining moment for my career, making that connection, because she is the one who pulled me into some opportunities at Cosmo, writing for them. And then that's when things really took off and I got to work for some bigger brands.
Okay, wow, that's a really amazing, segue into from law to, now writing for magazines as well. Yeah. And then now you started, what was the transition like to now screenwriting?
Yeah, that's interesting because it's happening kind of recently. So I always knew, again, like, I had this passion for writing and for storytelling, and I've always loved TV and film. I think the moment that really made me again sort of realize that I could do it. I'm a very visual person, and so if I can see me doing it, and if I can visualize me being in those spaces, then I feel pretty convicted that I can do it. And so I think for me, that moment happened when I went to Sundance in 2023 last year. I in 2022 I randomly saw that they have this program for basically non-white writers, and they essentially, if you get in this program, they give you a stipend to help you go to the film festival. Sundance is one of the biggest film festivals in the world. I saw it randomly and I was like, well, you know what? Let me just apply. Yeah. I was grossly underqualified at the time, or so I thought. I had only had a couple of big bylines under my belt. I only had a year and a half, maybe two, of professional experience writing. And so I was like, girl, there's no way. Yeah. There's no way. But I'm a big proponent in putting yourself out there, even if you don't think it's going to go anywhere. Yeah. Even if you're underqualified or so you think, it's always worth it to put yourself out there because you genuinely never know. That's true. So I did. And then I got in. And so I went, and it was an incredible experience, and I got to interact with people who are in all different sides of the film industry, film critics like myself, producers, directors, actors, and that's when I really caught the bug bad. I think it's something that had always been in the back of my head, like, wow, a pipe dream. But then going to Sundance and seeing people who looked like me, who had the similar thoughts and perspective as me, that is really where I was like, I could do this. I think I could really do it. I think I have this eye. I think I have this mentality. I think I have this belief. I think I have this understanding. I think I could really make this happen. And then
Wow. Okay. And then now you started working with for Big Girl Small World. Is this your first screenwriting experience, or was there writing experience prior to that for such things?
That was my first official experience. I have a very small boutique production company called Karibu Productions, and we mostly do digital content, and I'd done some stuff under that belt, and we were developing shows for digital, for the small screen, for the big screen. So I'd gotten a little bit of taste of what that process looks like, and I had rubbed elbows with some other people in the industry. I had been to some other writing rooms here, but Big Girl Small World was definitely my first you're a part of the writer's room, you're writing, you're contributing, you're seeing how it actually works to put together a TV show, and that was transformative. I adored the team. I also adored the show itself. I really was excited about this idea about having a protagonist leading character who was a bigger size, and even showing the nuances of her relationship with her Wade, while also being sexual and also being free and fun and determined. I thought it was such a juicy character, so I'm so honored that was my first experience.
Yeah, it's actually a really, really great show. I enjoy it so much. So well done.
Thank you. Please watch it so we can get a season 2. If you haven't watched it at home, please watch it.
Yeah, we definitely need a season 2. I eat it up. It's and I love that it's also feel good, and as someone who's also plus size, it's nice to see myself represented in the Kenyan context, and it's not always in a hypersexual way. So it's really nice to see that. So you guys did a great job, and thank you. I am rooting for a season 2.
Yes, season 2. Cross your fingers, everybody. Cross your fingers. Thank you so much for watching.
Is there any other screenwriting gig that you're working on currently, or is it still with your production house?
So we have a lot going on at the production house. I'll talk about that after. There are some things that are on my plate that I can't say a whole bunch about.
Okay.
Let me keep it there so I don't get in trouble. But there's some exciting things, including one project that I'm super passionate about that I think will be the most experimental and challenging of the norms within the Kenyan film and TV industry. I'm dying to get started on that and to see it go somewhere, because I really think it could be something extremely special. special. So I'm excited.
That's great. You know, the thing is, I'm not even following this script because the conversation is so nice. But anyway.
You are a fantastic interviewer, by the way. Wow. Claps for Cindy, because you really are you're very natural.
Thank
for
you.
someone who's like newer to this, like I really hope that you're patting your back, because it's not easy. It's not
you.
easy at all.
That's the validation I need. Subscribe. So we can also continue to season 2.
Period. Subscribe. Everybody here needs to get a season 2. Everybody.
Yeah. So there's something I watched. So for you guys who don't know, Koi also has her own podcast called MovieBuffsKenya. Did I say that right?
Yeah, we go through all I think the official name is MovieBuffsKenya, but we go by Movie Buffs. You can find us on Movie Buffs. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So they basically you have a co-host.
Yes.
Talk more about that. Actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Movie Buffs. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what we talk about, right?
Yeah.
We talk about movies and TV in Kenya and around Africa and around the world.
Yeah.
Whatever you are watching, we're talking about it. That project has been so much fun, and that was really the start of our production company. So I host that podcast with my boyfriend, Wilson Wangemi. Shout out, Will. And we started this company together, and it started from this podcast. And, you know, I think the best kinds of podcasts start from an organic place of interest, and that's really what this podcast started from. We loved TVs and film. Obviously, we were both kind of thinking about being in those spaces professionally, me on the writing side, Will on the audio engineering and music side. So we already kind of had that passion. And when we found that we would, you know, when we were at home, we'd watch movies and TV and spend like hours talking about it afterwards. And we were like the good millennials that we were like, I feel like this is a podcast.
I feel like someone would love to hear us speak.
I feel like our opinions mean so much that everyone needs to hear them. And so, yeah, we have been a little bit on and off the last 2 years. I'll be honest about it. Yeah. But I think we're finally in our pocket. It takes a while to get a podcast into like a good, I'm sure you know, right?
Yes.
You've seen.
Yeah.
It takes a while for a podcast to get its sea legs. And it certainly took us a while. And then as we started to build other shows for other people and then also build our own projects, we found very quickly that managing it all was a little interesting. Yeah. But yeah, we premiered our second season. When was that? I think back in February now. Yeah. Girl, how is it already almost August? Like, that's crazy.
I know 2024 has literally started running. Where is it
Who
going?
is she? Who is she?
Going?
I don't know.
Understand.
Yeah, so we brought it out in this February. It's been so much fun, and now we're just excited about continuing. We're going to be revamping the show a little bit. Definitely prioritizing digital and TikTok. We want to reach our people where they are.
Definitely.
And so using TikTok, using YouTube, using Instagram more heavily is definitely what we're focused on.
So because that's how I actually found more about you. I mean, I came across you after seeing congratulatory posts about the show on Showmax, and then I saw Buffs Kenya on TikTok, and there was a clip that you guys posted about the difference between plays and like, you know, live shows and acting like for cameras. Yes. You know, and that's something that I normally have discussions about, the difference between the type of acting that you need to do. I did like a little bit of drama, nothing big, but you have to be very dramatic, for lack of a better word. But when you watch like international shows, movies and so on, they don't act like it's very natural. They're not acting in a very showy way. And I think in Kenya we're still lacking there, because some of the shows are very like, you can tell they're in a role, but it's overstated. So how do you think guys can navigate through that? Because I want to watch a show and feel like it's just another reality. It's not like I'm watching a show.
Exactly.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a different kind of escapist relationship.
Yes.
And I think even the trends within TV, we crave characters that are more grounded, characters that we feel are real. Yes. And you have to bring those energy to those roles. That's interesting. I think really a big part of it is directors doing more to push their actors in certain directions. I've been on set a handful of times, and it's almost alarming to me how little the directors guide their actors to success. I don't actually really blame the actors. I actually blame more of the infrastructure of TV sets, but also the infrastructure of the acting industry here. Like you said, like so many actors come from the stage because that's our primary way of like navigating that industry, right? Like you start on stages, maybe in college, and then you just continue to get your name out there, then you go to auditions, and then you end up on Showmax shows and whatever and so forth. True. And so I really wish that directors would push their actors more, because I really believe that we have such incredible acting talent here. I just don't think that it's nurtured or challenged, right? Like a lot of times it's just let's get the shot and let's move on. But why not, say, hey, why don't you try it this way? Why don't you try it that way? Why don't you try it from this angle? I think that we always say it on Movie Buffs, when the bar is quite low. And I think that Kenya culturally, particularly in creative spaces, but I think in every aspect of our culture, as we're seeing with what's happening sociopolitically now, we need to raise the bar, right? Like we need to hold ourselves to a higher standard. I think that's what really is missing in this industry. And I think that the actor pipeline is an example of that.
Yeah, because I think it will be I think it's true, because I know a couple of actors, actresses, and they're really good at their roles, and most of them start from the plays and then now end up in, like, started from theater and ended up in now, what do I call it? TV and movies and so on and so forth. And apart from a few, I've seen, maybe a good example is actually, I know I've kept coming back to it, but, Big Girl Small World, it doesn't feel acted. Yeah. It doesn't feel acted. And I feel like we have such a big potential because, if Nollywood is a thing, why isn't that a thing in Kenya? We need our own something wood, like Hollywood, Bollywood, Nollywood. Kenya wood. Should we workshop it? Kenwood? We'll workshop it. There needs to be a something there. But I feel like we have a lot of potential and a lot of talent. And you're right, the bar is low and definitely needs to be raised. Not just in the acting or writing, and just as creatives as a whole. There needs to be something more. But hopefully this will facilitate that.
This is something that we're really fighting for at our production company, Karibu Productions. I just really want us to challenge what we think Kenyan content should and could be. I don't think we seem to be very attached to certain storylines, certain acting choices, certain directing choices. And I'm like, why not challenge that? Why not change that? Even the programming that we have for our production company, it's ambitious, it's new, and it's intentionally like that because we really want to prove that Kenyan consumers are ready for something different. Because the tea is a lot of these studio execs and these streaming services, they underestimate y'all, and that's just the straight up facts, right? Like the amount of times, Cindy, that I have heard, like Kenyans won't get that, or Kenyans won't get this. Girl, let me even take a sip. Because it grinds my gears so much. If Squid Game can be the #1 show on Netflix in Kenya for several weeks counting, how can you say that Kenyans would understand the style of mockumentary or the style of parody? I think it's such an insult. And the discrepancy between these people who create content and the people who consume is just, it's so wide, it's so blaring. And I really just hope that we can close that gap.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because you've actually mentioned something, the narratives. I've seen it on Twitter, and it's a conversation that's always happening. Kenyan shows or movies, the storyline is always something to do with poverty or like making it out of the hood, or like, and it's not fair. It's not a bad storyline, but it's an overdone storyline. So we need to see something new, something fresh, something different. And I think Showmax shows, for the most part, are really trying to move away from that, because even Single Kiasi, at least, is not about poverty.
Yeah,
so at least we're slowly. It's good to see there's a bit of progress, but we still need something else,
Absolutely.
Because even Volume on Netflix, it's not that it's I love that show as well, and it's good to see that, first of all, that we're making Kenyan Netflix shows, because that wasn't something that existed a couple of years ago.
Very
so
true.
I mean, any progress is progress, but it still has that whole undertone of someone trying to make it out of the struggle,
of course.
So it's like, okay, it's a storyline that works, but it can't be the only way we represent Kenya to the world, you know? So it definitely needs to change, and I'm happy that your production house is trying to do something that's out of the box.
Thank you.
And all the best with that. I'm excited to see if you do a mockumentary.
Yes.
I will be your biggest fan, because
really?
I absolutely love mockumentary. You know which one I like the most?
Yeah, tell me.
Why am I? Okay, I forgot the name. But it's this lady. She does like history, but Kunk. Have you watched Kunk before?
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll show it to you after.
Please.
I absolutely love that show. It's a bit dark.
Yes.
But it's so funny.
I just think that we have so many ideas of what that could look like. I just think that what a wonderful medium for Kenyan culture. And that's the thing too. I think that as Kenyans, we're very afraid of critiquing our culture because we see it as a negative thing. I think that criticism can be as positive as it can be negative. It's all about the intention, right? Like I think there's ways that we can comment on things and maybe like, you know, point out the things that are not so great and still come from a loving place and a place from wanting our culture to be better and to do better and to improve and to evolve. And I just would love to see that on TV. I would just like poke fun. You know what I mean? Open up a dialogue. You know what I mean?
I agree. And that's also another reason I also like the show. I think this entire episode is just going to be me like gassing up Big Girl Small World, honestly.
Oh, the team's going to be so happy. I can't wait to tell them.
But honestly, I love the fact that Shiko is always on the media. Like, you know, it's very representative of how a lot of creatives are. Like, one day you wake up and you find yourself on a tabloid and you're like, how did you guys even know XYZ happened in my life?
Yes.
So I like that they showed that because it's very relatable to in the Kenyan context.
Yeah,
like,
okay, great. I'm glad that you say that because that really is something that we talked a lot about in the writer's room. Like, how do we make this feel authentic and grounded as possible? Well, of course, still having fun, still being entertaining, and again, still pushing the boundary of what Kenyan content looks like right now.
So I like it, and I think it's also really important. Like, you can have pop culture in a Kenyan context and it will still be very relatable because I mean we also have our own culture. I think even as the younger generation, I think maybe the people who keep telling you like Kenyans won't get that also come from a place of like what they used to show before, and they need to understand that we're also evolving. Like, I mean, you know, things are changing. Even in, as you said, in the socio-political space, guys would not have been protesting a couple of years ago as hard as they are right now. So,
and things are changing everywhere in Kenya
that's
too.
Exactly what I'm saying.
That's a big fight that I'm having as well right now about things. As things are changing in Nairobi, things are also changing in Chugs. You know what I mean? Like, people have smartphones in Chugs, they watch Netflix, they watch YouTube. So I think one thing that really bothers me, a pet peeve of mine, is that like, urban Kenyans, this is for them. And then now, like, you know, Ushago Kenyans, they only have this. And I'm like, there's more of a cultural connection here than you think, right? Like, I have so many cousins who are still in Chugs and even extended family members who are on TikTok as much as I am, right? So I think that, like, starting to think about our communities in different ways and understanding that in 2024, we're more culturally and digitally aware than we've ever been before. There isn't, that gap between those two communities isn't as big as I think a lot of creatives and a lot of creators think.
Yes, I really do agree with you because it's true. I mean, everywhere I go, even when I'm going back to Shags, there's internet. Like, you know, there's Wi-Fi, and that was not
Zuku was there.
There's a lot. Like, there's a lot you can do. So you're right. We're evolving digitally, so that also means that we need to evolve in all these other areas of creative work as well. Yeah. So I mean, even there are people there now. Like, I don't know why there's this mentality that it's only like Nairobi or like Mombasa, like just places that are seen as cities that have like this urbanization, but it's a lie. A lot of places are evolving. So we also need to evolve with them or understand the evolution and you know, make it work.
Yes.
Can you share with me some challenges that you've had in your writing experience or as a journalist, just your entire creative career?
Oh my God. Well, I've had so many challenges. I'll give you a more recent one because I think it's important to note that the challenges never stop, right? No matter what level you're on, whether you're at the top, whether you're still working your way there, whether you're somewhere in the middle like me, there's always challenges. So if you want to be a creative, sit tight, buckle up. It's a bumpy ride. It's a bumpy ride.
I really agree.
The biggest challenge that I'm really working through right now is I'm writing a novel. Super exciting. I'm super excited about it. Yeah. It happened so wonderfully and so unexpectedly. Last year, I wrote an essay for Vogue about how I woke up one day, it felt, and I had no friends. And I was like, wow, like I'm 27 years old. I thought that I would be living a life like Sex and the City. I'm Carrie. Then I have a Miranda. I have a, you know what I mean? Yeah. I thought that I would be living that life. And I always thought that friends would be guaranteed, particularly for this time in my life, because that's what the media, that's what everybody tells you, that like it is popping in your 20s. I'm here to tell you it's like not popping all the time in your 20s. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I was just extremely lonely and extremely anxious about it, and I just was like, how did this happen? And so I wrote an essay about that, and I talked to a lot of my ex-friends to sort of explore why those relationships ended and to ultimately answer why so many of us feel the way that I was feeling, because in my own research I found that like I was not in the minority by any means. And so so I wrote that essay and it did better than I expected. And I think that's again another wonderful like learning lesson for all of us as creatives, right? Like sometimes the most honest thing that we do and the most honest stories that we tell are the ones that really hit.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's an honesty that maybe you are initially uncomfortable with, because the thought of talking to people who maybe weren't my biggest fans was terrifying. But I was like, there's an emotional truth here that if I'm able to get to it, it can be something really special. I think that's true no matter what kind of creative you are and no matter what story you're telling. But yeah, so that came out. It did pretty well. And then a publisher reached out to me and they're like, hey, would you be interested in writing a novel sort of inspired by the themes of your essay? And I was like, oh,
yes.
Bitch, yes.
Immediately, yes.
Yes, immediately, yes. And it was very exciting in the beginning, but I quickly discovered how overwhelming it truly is, right? Like I think coming from shorter form writing, and that's like, you know, writing like, you know, 500 to 800 words, sometimes 1,000 plus, thinking about creating a bigger story where the characters feel like, obviously they're fictitious, but they feel like they're real people and they're balanced and they're hypocritical, all the things that real people are, is a much bigger challenge than I thought it was going to be. It's been extremely difficult. And even too, I think balancing, that's always the conversation that we're having as creatives, right? Like balancing writing this novel and my writing career and then my film and TV career. I was like, oh, I knew it was going to be hard, but sometimes you don't really know how hard it's going to be until you're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was last fall and I'm still fighting through the process. Actually, moment of honesty, I haven't heard from my book editor in a little while and I'm so nervous about it. But I think it's good to be honest about it, right? Because like, here's the thing, like, will she get back to me? Probably, maybe. We're hopeful. She's always been very expressive about her support. So I feel good that we're on the right track. But of course there is the you know, it might not go that way, right? Like she might not, you know what I mean? She might have lost interest. Those things happen to creatives. But I think what's important and what I have been telling myself as I've been anxiously refreshing my email is that no matter what happens, you have to be resound in your belief that you will make it happen. True. So whether I lose every opportunity, whether I get fired from my job at Blavity where I write content, check out blavity.com. If the production company crumbles, if my book editor never emails me back, I'm still going to make all of my dreams happen. And so that's the story that I'm telling myself. But yeah, it's such a wonderful process. I'm finding so much joy in finding my characters' voice and putting the pieces together. And nothing feels better than when you figure it out and you're like, yeah, this feels like me. This is a story that I could tell uniquely. There's nothing better than that. But of course, like getting to that is a fight and it can be extremely stressful. And I go between being in my pocket to nervously refreshing my email.
I get it. But I think what you said is really important. You have to be very resilient to be a creative.
Oh my God.
It can show you dust. And yeah, like the highs are high and the lows are low.
They sure are.
They're really low. But if you keep at it and you know you have a vision for yourself and you stick to the vision, I genuinely believe it'll work out. And it might not be how you envision it to a T, but it will still be good. Like when I started, I didn't think I'd do a podcast. When I started content creation, podcasting was not even in my mind. I was like, no, guys, that's so much work. Like, I don't know how guys do that. And here I am.
Here you are.
Almost done with season 1. But I don't know. So it just have to, sometimes it's okay to also reevaluate and or take a detour, maybe come back or take a different path. Like, it's okay. But if you are consistent with it and very sure that this is what you want to do, I think you'll definitely reap the benefits soon enough.
1,000%. You have to embrace changing course. You have to embrace adjustments, especially at the production company, Karibu Productions, which I've said 17 times. Shameless plug.
Plug yourself.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're on the podcast, we gonna have to plug. You have to plug. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
We're constantly having conversations of readjustments and let's do this, let's do that. We also are very conscious of having our audience be a part of the creation process. It's something that again, going back to this idea of we want to close the gap. We really want our audience to be a part of that process and to help guide us into what to make. And so that in itself also is if people are demanding for something, we have to prepare for adjusting for that. True. Well, of course, having our own vision and finding the ways in which those two visions connect, constantly changing.
Makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. But it's good that you guys are still up and running, and we
We
hope
sure
for
are.
a lot of success in the future.
Thank you. We have a lot coming, some stuff that we're really excited about, including a reality parody show, which I'm super excited about. I'm super excited about. I want to talk about it, but my production manager probably will be mad at me.
Yeah,
he'll be like, he'll call me later like, girl, and I'll be like, I know, I wasn't supposed to, but it's super exciting. And we're building a writer's room for that. We want it to be young people, people who don't have a lot of experiences. That's something else that we're super passionate about too, giving young people the opportunity, and people, not even young people who are early in their careers. I think that we need fresh voices. I think that we need fresh perspectives when it comes to the content that we make, and that's something that we really, really prioritize.
So what is the scouting process like in case someone in our audience wants to be a writer and wants to work with you?
Absolutely. Well, I'm always impressed by somebody who shoots their shot. So if you're out there, if you're interested, if you're a writer, if you're an actor, if you're a producer, whatever it is, if you come to me and you shoot your shot, I'll always give those people an opportunity because it takes a lot to shoot your shot. And I also think that that's the only way to get anywhere in life.
True.
Yeah. We're also spending a lot of time like going to universities. We have a great working relationship with USIU. I want to find people who are in school who want to do these pursuits. Because again, I think if I had the opportunity to have somebody, have a space where I could go and have pursued those sort of efforts when I was in college, maybe I wouldn't have tried to be a lawyer. Maybe I would have gotten it earlier. Yeah. But I think the biggest way really is social media. I think social media is a wonderful tool for finding, for collaborating. And so really social media is the main place, besides also like, using tools like WhatsApp. We've created a really wonderful group of young creatives and we're always talking to them for focus groups, but also just for opportunities as well. There's so much.
Oh, that's nice. So her info will be in the description box and she'll tell you where to find her later. But shoot your shot, guys.
Shoot your shot.
This is your chance to get a job in the creative space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you tell me how you handle criticism? Because I'm imagining in a writer's room, you all have to align at some point.
Yes.
And sometimes your ideas are shut down or like changed.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's personally, I don't like. I'm not the best with feedback, but
nobody
negative.
likes criticism, right? Like it's not a good time. Yeah, I think I was lucky. I had a pretty robust journalism career before entering writers' rooms, and journalism is even more cutthroat with criticism, right? Like I might write a draft and think I killed it, and then my editor will come and just mark that bitch up. Like it's like, ooh, maybe
change
not.
Change that.
Yes.
Change this.
Yeah. So it gave me a really thick skin on the onset, but I think it really is about reminding yourself that this is how you get better. True. It's tough because like here's the thing, like again, nobody likes it. It's never fun. It never makes you feel good. But I think it's like, think about that moment when you get to that connection that we were talking about, when you figure it out. It's an amazing moment. So think about that. Keep that moment in your head. Keep it in your heart. That's the only way to get through criticism. It doesn't get any easier. I'll be honest. Like my ego is still a little bit hurt when someone is like, no. But we just remind ourselves it's what makes us better. It's what makes us better.
It's actually true. You need the criticism. In the moment it sucks, but in the future it's like very beneficial. But sometimes it's like, why can't you just like everything? I'm perfect.
Yeah. And I'm a very harsh critic too. And I think it's also from being very harshly critiqued. And I think it's if you can get to a place where you appreciate it, it genuinely will make you better. Yeah. Genuinely.
Yeah. I think it's true.
Yeah.
What do you think? Okay, I think you kind of answered it by saying shooting your shot, but what do you think sets a good creative from a great creative?
What a fabulous question. I think it's confidence in a lot of ways. I think that I'm going to say confidence paired with self-understanding. I think if you can get to a place where you know who you are and you know the stories that you want to tell and how you want to tell them, even how you want to tell them, you can even figure that out later. But if you know who you are and what you are passionate about, that I think is what makes you great. I think sometimes as creatives, we feel the pressure to, again, mold ourselves to fit into whatever industries that we're in, to adjust, to change the things that we care about, the things that we're passionate about. But I think it's the people who believe in themselves and know who they are that sets apart, that makes them great. Yeah.
I think it's important. I think we mentioned that a lot. Just know yourself.
Know yourself.
It's a theme that's actually on this. Like, I think every creative has mentioned it as well. Like, you need to be very sure of what you want to do.
1,000%. Because I think what makes a great creative is moving with every step in your career, whether it's within a project, outside outside of a project with intention. I think one of the best things that I did was I took, even before I wrote a single word on the paper, I took time to think about, okay, well, who am I? What do I care about? And what stories can only I tell? And I think for me, that helped shape my entire career. Now when people reach out to me to work with me for whatever capacity, they know exactly what they're getting from me because I've always known what I have to offer these spaces. And I think if you can take the time to figure that out in as much detail as possible, really figuring out how to position yourself in that space where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm the only one who can do this thing, or, oh, I have this perspective on this thing that nobody really has. That's the way to set yourself up for long-term success.
I like it. So now can you tell me like any resources or tools that have helped you in your career that, you know, other people can employ?
Yeah. I think, well, if we're talking about like actual like logistical tools, honestly, Twitter has been life-changing for my career.
Really?
I'm not like Twitter can be so toxic, but it depends on what end of Twitter that you are on. My Twitter is quite positive, but that's mostly because I follow industry people. So it's folks sharing things that they're doing, their reactions to things that have come out, opportunities as well. I've gotten so many opportunities off Twitter. Vogue happened through Twitter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, Twitter is a very powerful tool. So if you are creative and you're trying to find ways to connect with people who could, one, help you create what you want to create, but also two, just give you an opportunity straight up, Twitter I think is a wonderful tool. And if you use it seriously, that can also just help you get out there. Though I feel that way about social media in general. I think TikTok is so unique in that capacity.
True.
It's so wonderful for growth. So I think social media, I think taking it in a different kind of way, right? Like obviously like my Instagram and like my social media leans on a little bit more professional creative. Yeah. And I did that intentionally. I actually, when I decided to take all of this really seriously, I wiped my social media. I started from the beginning and became really intentional about the things that I posted, the way in which I posted, the language I use in my captions. I think using social media intentionally can really help you get further than you might think.
Yeah. Okay, nice. Now, I think we're about to wrap up.
What a shame. I could be here forever.
You can come for season 2.
Please.
Could you please share a piece of advice to anyone who wants to join your career or your industry? Yeah.
I think find power in your voice and find it quickly. I think in Kenya specifically, we tend to devalue young people and devalue our thoughts, our perspectives, our convictions. Don't let anybody take that from you. Don't let anybody take away your power, even if it's somebody that you admire, even if it's somebody who you want to be like one day. You have what you need to be successful. Of course, nurture it. Be intentional about nurturing it. Reach out to people. Take networking really seriously. These are careers where there's no such thing as not talking to people. There's no such thing as not putting effort in that. If you want to really grow, you'll have to put yourself out there. You'll have to network. You'll have to shoot your shot. Do that. Find your confidence, even if it's not real. Like, even if you don't really feel confident, find ways to access it. Find ways to fake it, because people really do respond to confidence. Yeah.
Oh, great. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode. You did actually set the bar high, as I wanted you to do in the beginning.
Period.
So, good job.
Oh my gosh, this is such a fun time. I love this. As I told you, I'm a genuine fan. I've been seeing all of your clips on TikTok. I'm so impressed by how far you've gotten in a relatively short amount of time.
Thank you so much.
You got it. You are killing it. I am so happy that you found this platform, found your space, and it's only up from here.
Thank you. Yeah, guys, create the world, as we've been saying.
Such a cute name.
Yeah, thank you. I love validation here. It makes me feel like every day that I have stress, I'm gonna remember this. I'll play this clip back and I'll
please,
like, Cre8 told me I can
please
do this.
do. I think we owe that to each other, right?
True,
like,
it's so
I don't
true.
believe there's so much competition in this industry. I've had so many things stolen from me. Stories for another day, but girl. But I don't believe that, we are in the same space, right? Like, you have a podcast, I have a podcast. Yeah. I don't believe that there's no room for both of us to be successful.
I agree.
I support you, you support me. And
exactly.
I get so much joy being on your platform, seeing your platform grow. I think it just makes all of us better. So we're throwing away all of that gatekeeping nonsense, that
we don't
jealousy.
Do that anymore.
Well, it's over in 2024. It's over. I love to see it.
I love it. So could you please tell our audience where to find you?
Where can you not find me? Well, if you want to follow me personally, you can follow me at Kui Mwai, at Kui Mwai _ on X, formerly known as Twitter. If you want to follow the production company, it's at Karibu Productions, anywhere, any platform. And then MovieBuffs at MovieBuffsKenya, again, same thing, any platform, anywhere, anytime, any place.
She's also a singer, guys. A real creative over here.
Don't get me on the mic now.
Okay, well, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Kui Mwai exclusively here on Cre8. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Cre8 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. Like, share, and comment whose story you'd like to hear next. And in the meantime, you can vibe with us on all our social media platforms at the Cre8 Pod. Remember to stay creative, and I'll catch you in the next one.